Chapter 5. Anxiety. Anxiety is a constant overall feeling of fear, worry, and discomfort. It is just hanging there, like a shackle locked around your foot, but to your soul instead. It is like a heavy stone tied around your neck while you are swimming in the sea of life. When a feeling is constant, it turns into a state of the psyche. While panic attacks come and go, anxiety is the feeling that remains. Many people can experience panic attacks, but not anxiety. They can be happy and relaxed in periods, and just get panic attack in certain situations which put them under pressure. They do not experience an anxiety rest of the time. Here I hope that the reader can see how clear the difference between panic and anxiety is, and why I want to define them separately. We can experience panic and anxiety at the same time as well. Many of the reasons causing panic are cause for anxiety too. The man whose face portraits anxiety is not a real person. He is a prisoner. I chose this metaphor because anxiety feels like a prison. We wake up with anxiety and go to bed with anxiety. Anxiety has deprived us of our freedom and controls our behavior day and night. If we have anxiety in a particular situation we have completely excluded from our life and we don't feel anxiety otherwise, then there is no big deal to discuss. Here I can give an example that a man gets anxiety for being out in the open sea. The man arranges his life so he can enjoy it without boat excursions and simply do not choose to work as a sailor. This is the most simple solution of anxiety. The problem with anxiety as a prison sentence occurs when our entire life has turned into a prison and we just feel powerless. Some behavior scientists deem that the only way to win over a fear is to face it eye to eye, but it depends on what causes the fear. To be able to face our fears and win a battle with them, we have to be armored with the correct knowledge and experience. No human is created to be a god. I mean by that, to be able to endure everything that could possibly happen. There are countless examples of acts of madness where consequentialist thinking is absent. Once we decided that we have suffered enough, we might find the strength to overcome the fear of change. To be able to manage that task, our so-called armor and tools are the following: willpower, power of action, awareness of the consequences coming with the change. I deem that we must analyze the problem by its effect and eliminate the cause of it. We have to do that through a diplomatic negotiation with our fears and all our dark feelings. The general cause of anxiety is a prolonged strain, stress, and powerlessness. Once again, we must start with one of the two purposes of life: to control our life and destiny as much as possible. If we ended up in a situation where we are completely trapped and chained in a psychical powerlessness, then there is not much more to do than accept the situation and develop spiritually, intellectually, and emotionally under the current conditions. It is probably our lesson to learn to do that. In this case, I mean people who live a life in a wheelchair or have been diagnosed with some disease leaving them a very short time in life. Those people are somehow prisoners in their bodies. When the body is the prison, we have yet our soul as the other half of our being. What we have left is to ease the pain of the body and develop the soul. The body might be limited to enjoy life, but the soul is not. No matter if we end up with a fatalistic diagnosis or we have been sentenced to a lifetime prison, anxiety will be our shadow. In those cases, the cause of anxiety can't be eliminated. We can numb the anxiety through different treatments. These are the most demanding cases with the worst conditions. It is very difficult for the individual to win over an anxiety when he remains physically powerless, no matter will and action. But this is not impossible, just difficult. Once we are forced to turn our life upside down, we have no other choice but to accept the situation and make the best of it by adapting to the current circumstances. How can we use our will in such a situation? We can change our perspective on life, on our destiny, on our surroundings, and find peace. There are people who in real prison have found inner peace and achieved a fantastic personal development through spirituality. There are also many fascinating stories about people choosing a new perspective on life despite deadly diseases. So it is possible, if we want it to be, no matter how cruel destiny might seem. Here is the place to remind that saying that whatever doesn't kill us makes us stronger. To adopt such an attitude, we need a strong will, a lot of self-discipline and humbleness to defeat an anxiety. As long as there is a will to do that, there is a hope. If we now regard to those people above, the prisoner with the death sentence and the woman with ALS, who has 2 years left in life, then we can see some lights through the door crack. Now is the moment for them and us to assume that we have a soul, a spirit within us all. Focusing on the most tragic destinies out there and comparing them to our own, we will realize how effective and hope-giving the tactics of comparison are. There are always opportunities for everyone, but the deeper we are trapped in the darkness of an anxiety, the harder it is to see them. Don't be shy to ask for help, no matter what kind of mental illness you experience. This help could be found within a conversation with a friend, a partner, a parent, a psychologist, a coach, just someone you trust. Without receptivity and will for change, nothing constructive can ever happen. The 2 people exampled above could use the purpose with life and suffering to develop their philosophical and spiritual views. Such a change in the mindset could make it easier for all individuals trapped in the worst possible conditions of life to accept their destiny and find some logic with it. Do they have a better choice? The answer is no. Acceptance can somehow ease their pain and play down their suffering. You are the driver in that terrifying rally race just when you find that the brakes don't work. You have seen the red lamp indicating a system error and you have shifted down. Yet the car has no brakes. Driving a car without brakes is powerlessness. It is an anxiety. Can you use the handbrake? What would happen then? An anxiety can cause physical pain as well. Since the psychical discomfort of an anxiety is long-standing, it might affect the body functions and its well-being. Many people experience physical problems as a result of an anxiety. Some of them are gripe, gastric ulcer, constipation or diarrhea, urination over than usual, insomnia, eating disorders, headache, migraine, coordination problems and muscle cramps. All these physical problems can be caused by an anxiety, therefore they are considered psychosomatic. The body indicates symptoms of issues in the psyche, the soul. The physical symptoms, on the other hand, generate even more anxiety, and we end up in a vicious circle. If we want to break it, we must get to the bottom of all causes for our anxiety. The healthcare system is very fond of filling our bodies with chemicals because its authorities believe that psychic issues are biochemical issues, which can be balanced by hormones and genes. This might be only half of the whole truth. Almost all types of anxiety are caused by external stress, except some cases with delusions. Sometimes anxiety originates exclusively from the inside of our psyche as a result of the choices we regret, as well as obsessions that are not delusions but some kind of trauma. If we focus on which wrong choices and painful experiences are the actual cause, we can ask the question, is it possible to redo some choices in life? The answer is yes in some cases and no in others. Our choices are programming our behavior. That's why overbalance of negative experiences can program obsessions, delusions, and behavior disorders. Most of the people experiencing an anxiety in their everyday life should consider some of the underlying issues as a cause of their anxiety. Relationship issues, wrong partner, family interfering too much in the individual's life, or a family which has abandoned them, calumniation and victimization at work, isolation, relationships with a negative impact, drug abuse or crime, children who are in big trouble, beloved ones who are badly ill. Stress and pressure, education too difficult for our potential, work that empties all our energy resources, work we dislike, demands to manage too many musts to be accepted in a collective, press to belong to a certain group, to get a family and a career, unemployment, economical issues like debts, illness, fatigue and exhaustion, powerlessness and trauma. The solution of all these problems starts and ends with our free will and our power of action. They are necessary so we can take charge of our life. Write down which of the issues named above are present in your particular case. Add more if you are aware of such and you don't find them in the list. Sometimes it can be difficult to define the cause, but take your time and search. Make this your primary goal, for it's worth it. All those reasons lined up are both possible to live with and without, a life without an anxiety. Regarding choices, we must be humble enough to confess our faults in life and go on further with the consequences. Sometimes it is possible to correct them, sometimes it isn't. It is a sign of inner strength, and it is admirable as well to stand up and confess I did wrong. Everyone does wrong. If someone insists that they never did wrong, we can be sure that this person is lying. It is possible we have to change partner, or have a serious talk with our partner about our relationship-related anxiety. Maybe we have to change our job. We might be stuck in the company of friends with criminal activity and drug abuse. Even if these are the only friends we have, the only relationships in our life, end them. Our freedom and an anxiety-free life are way much important than them. Is someone we love sick and we can be there? We must call this person and speak out our heart, listen as well. If there is a trouble with our children, we should never abandon them for the anxiety following such an act. The bad conscience, as well as the anxiety caused to the children, are very difficult to get rid of. Here we have to note the importance of one act that may solve many relationship issues, and this act is too often underestimated: forgiveness. To be able to forgive ourselves and others, inner strength is demanded. It is always a free choice. No matter what kind of relationship issue we deal with, forgiveness is always one of the keys to that door. Many people with an anxiety have something unforgiven hanging like a dark cloud and preventing the solar light to ease the situation. Almost everyone has had issues within the family relationships. The problem with forgiveness and relationships is about being two to row the boat. Some people are not able to forgive. Everything should not be forgiven either. Only confessed faults should be forgiven, and if forgiveness is required, from the one who caused the harm. Burdening our heart and minds with an anxiety that someone has not reached the necessary development for forgiveness is punishment to ourselves. We can't take responsibility for the choices of others. The feeling of shame has a positive effect when it keeps our conscience awake about what is right and wrong. But one feeling of shame too much and unjustified can lead to unnecessary anxiety. There are people who take the blame for everything and exaggerate their own impact on the planet. Too often we get subtle messages through mass media like, "We humans destroy the planet." This is an example of elaborated announcements we hear every day in the news and in every documentary about nature. Doomsday is here, and it is mine and your fault. Many specialists repeat daily through all speakers what a burden we, humans, are to nature, how we devastate the forest and overconsume all natural resources, how we cause climate change. I spent 8 years of my life in tangible anxiety because of all this so-called information. As a result of it, I refused to have children and put blame on anyone who did it. I tried to consume as little as possible and hustled my life to the impossible. All that bother so I wouldn't be a burden of nature. For a while I was considering to commit suicide because this world was going to hell anyway, and there was no purpose with life. I wandered around and preached about the world going under because of the end of all natural resources and overpopulation. At the end of this journey I found facts rebutting the doomsday theories and could finally free myself from the terrible anxiety, give birth to a child, and eat an imported fruit without blaming myself or feeling ashamed. This example of myself I have observed in many people, and the climate and anxiety movement is alarmingly growing. That's why we must have more open discussions about it. It's a fact that not only an anxiety, but the suffering for many humans has its origins in prolonged propaganda, misunderstood information or disinformation. This type of an anxiety is easy to get rid of. Just turn off media and be very selective in what information you fill your mind with. What can we do about stress and pressure? We try to get rid of things that stress us. Enjoying living, being able to recharge our batteries and live a balanced life is the most important priority. When we decide that we have experienced enough anxiety, then not getting back in pain must be a great motivation to free ourselves from all those anxiety-eliciting factors. Individuals who easily give way to social and collective pressure must consider how much of their own well-being they can trade in the form of stress and anxiety, just to be accepted. The purpose with every individual's existence is to walk his own path and not to please others. Before we turn our life upside down, we must carefully analyze the reasons for our anxiety. What is worth to keep in our life and what can we get rid of? Think twice before throwing away something or someone. Start trying to decrease the pressure by reorganizing the life you already have, doing the following. Work less in the matter of time. Get sleeping routines that fit your individual need to recharge your batteries. Without efficient sleep, this is not possible. The lack of energy will make us collapse sooner or later, both physically or psychically. Are you suffering from insomnia? Read all the information out there. Insomnia can cause an anxiety and ruin our health and balance. There are good methods without medication. Regulate the relationships. Choose carefully your company and what kind of information you are being fed with. Media can generate more collective anxiety than informing the public. Chart every little thing that eats of your energy and restructure all communications. Reduce all must-dos and must-haves. Nobody actually needs to be best, most beautiful, most clever, always accessible, and so on. None of these desires is a natural human need, but something that have gotten into the heads of certain people until they perish themselves. Consider if what you are already doing for life is what you want to do. If it is not what you really want, reduce the musts to the absolute survival minimum and give space to the will of your heart. When we have gone through all these checkpoints, restructured our reality, gotten rid of all energy-consuming factors and replaced them with energy-charging activities, then the anxiety will go out through your door all by itself. You just need to open the door. Sometimes we believe we need something very special to be happy, but it happens to be just that special things we need to get rid of, to experience freedom. To be able to free ourselves from an anxiety, we must come to an insight that we are trapped in this condition of the psyche, admit it, find the reason and eliminate it. This process demands extensive intervention and changes to adapt life so we can once again start to feel like a free human being, not like a prisoner. When we lose control over our life, we might experience panic attacks and anxiety much more often. When we are not able to find a way out of this labyrinth of dark feelings of panic and anxiety, then we end up in another condition of the psyche called depression.